So welcome everybody. Thank you for joining from wherever you are in the world. And for those who are watching the recording, thank you for your time. So this is something new that we've started. And first off, a thanks to all of you customers, users who've been supporting us through the platform, asking us for new features. We've very happily obliged, and there's now a need for us to even tell you how much we've done. So welcome. You see that the occasion is as momentous as the marketing team having convinced me to even wear a shirt. So I know I'm sitting at home, but let me be as professional as possible and show you what Simply.Coach has been up to in the last month. Uh, a few housekeeping things. If you have any questions, just drop them in the chat and either I or somebody from the team will pick them up and answer them. And of course, the recording will be available later, so feel free to drop off if you need to in the middle. So the first feature that I want to spend some time on today is something that is perhaps one of the biggest features we've released after the platform came out. That's the invoicing and the payments functionality. And the fundamental problem that we're looking to solve with the feature is just bringing everything into one place. So businesses, coaches already have existing software to manage invoices, to manage payments, and maybe even not so much automation available through the software you're using, or even if you're doing it directly through a bank transfer, keeping account of what's coming in, staying on top of your invoices, sending out reminders does become a bit of a challenge. We even heard some feedback when we were building the feature out that, hey, I don't like doing that. I want a platform to help automate that part. So what we first did was integrate the platform with Stripe. We chose Stripe because that's the most recognized payment processor, and it works across a lot of currencies and a lot of countries. So the first thing you would do is integrate your Stripe account and then raise invoices accordingly so that when payments are made by the coaches, by the sponsors, the invoice is automatically marked as complete as soon as the payment hits your bank account. So that's the level of automation that an integration with Stripe allows. And the integration is seamless. As all of you have already integrated your calendars, I'm sure you've experienced that process. The Stripe account, because it has some financial information, does involve an additional step. But again, that integration is seamless. And then you're raising invoices just as you would through any other platform, but with the added advantage of linking that invoice to existing customers, existing contacts, and existing contracts as well. Now, I'll spend a bit more time explaining why the contracts are important and why the different contacts are important when we come to the next feature. But for now, even if you're using just the plain vanilla coaching with your coaches, raising invoices becomes easy by just adding a new invoice, picking the line items, and integrating with Stripe, of course, is saying that you want to collect the payment via Stripe. Of course, because this has got to do with accounting and ensuring that taxes are maintained, you also have the ability to define the taxes. So whereas your line items would be without tax, you have the additional tax component that you would add. So I've just picked GST in the Indian context, which comes at 18%. And regardless of what coaching services you're offering, or regardless of how many, the tax component just automatically adds in addition to that, and the coach or the coachee is charged for that. Now, that's on the basic functionality, but going back to exactly how you would do this, picking the contact or the organization whom you're billing is important. And this is where adding the contact details when you're creating your contact, right when you're onboarding them onto the platform helps. So I already have a few organizations that I'm working with, and I'm going to be billing company B here. The memo is that this is going to be a transfer via Stripe. So they'd be swiping their credit card through their Stripe, through the Stripe link that I share with them or the platform shares with them. And so the due date would ensure that reminders are sent, that you also know that there are certain invoices that are overdue, and linking the records is the most important part of the whole puzzle. So while you have your clients, you have your organizations, you have your contract, you have the invoice that you're now raising, tying all of them together into one neat thread is crucial. So because this is company B, I'd pull out my contract with them, tie it to that. So when I'm checking my contract, I have the list of all the invoices raised under that. And similarly, if company B is directly linked to a certain set of engagements, I can tie them also together. Now, the raising of the contracts or the raising of the invoices is straightforward and easy, and collecting of invoices also. However, it's not necessary that everything is collected via Stripe. You might already have processes in place where companies pay you via a direct bank transfer or even UPI or Venmo. And that works as well. You would just still raise your invoices, capture the payment amounts, capture all the line items. And then once, let's say, this contract here, I've just received the payment in my bank. I would come in and manually just capture the payment saying, yes, I did receive the amount of the €1,000 that I was capturing. I would put in the transaction number and capture the payment. So once that's done, again, all the linked records, as you see here, the contracts for Arvind, the contact for Arvind, all of them would get updated with this information. And then I can move forward as I go. And this is just to bring everything in one place and reduce the amount of effort that you need to put in of chasing clients. Hey, I remember I'd sent them an invoice. I haven't received the payment yet, and eliminating all of that. That's an overview of how the invoicing and payments functionality works. Uh, Before I get into a little more detail, any initial first thoughts or questions? Okay, so you'll note when I created my first invoice that I had the option to choose from existing contacts. So whom do I want to send this invoice to? Is this an organization that's already on my account that I'm working with? Is this a contact that I'm already working with? Or is this somebody that is entirely out of the picture, maybe an additional sponsor that I want to invoice? So the option of invoicing the contact or the organization expects that you have already added their information beforehand. The place to do that is again in your client space. If it's a client that you're adding information for, billing information for, you just need to navigate to their contact and you'll see that there's a space to add in the billing info. This is also the space where you will be updated of all the other information. So I've already put in the billing details for Adrian here. So you see, this is Adrian. This is the email to which I should be invoicing them, their uh, address, and other billing details that would be pulled up when the invoice is sent out. Similarly, if you're directly billing the organization that you're working with, you would go into the organization space and put in your billing information there. So again, I showed you the example of company B earlier. And here again, you have the billing information and the contracts. Put in the billing information, who this should be invoiced to, the tax ID for this company, and the location again with the address. So you'd first add in the billing information and then raising invoices after that is seamless. So that's on the entire invoicing and payments functionality. Uh, Allied concept that I wanted to touch upon and move into our next functionality that is the big one is the entire contact idea. So all of you are familiar with the one-on-one engagements. This is where the work really happens with your coaches, right? This is where you're capturing the goals, scheduling the sessions and all of that. And I'm preaching to the choir here. You're already familiar with this. But we recently introduced the idea, in addition to the engagement, of a contact. The contact is the space or the uh, really space really above the engagement that is specific to that client. The need for a contact separate from the engagement is that there's a lot of stuff that you're capturing directly on the contact. Contacts can have multiple engagements with you over the course of the years you work with them. Maybe they have a leadership coaching engagement 6 months long with one of your coaches. A couple of years later, they come back and say, hey, I had a really great experience with you. I want to be coached again, but this time I want to focus on career coaching. And that's generally how we've seen a lot of coaching expand and grow. And that's again feedback that you've shared with us. And that's why we've incorporated it in this way. So the idea of the contact again is that you have things that are directly at the contact level. These could be billing information, sessions that are being done directly with the contact, like discovery sessions before you even kick off your engagements, and even all the billing information. So, regardless of the kind of engagements, whether it's leadership coaching, life coaching, relationship coaching that an individual is going through, you would have stuff that is separated from the engagements that they're working in and the coaching they're doing, but related directly to them. This is the space in which you're able to work with an individual directly. And this is especially useful for the admin team of a coaching business. I want to know whether the coaching sessions or the discovery sessions have been completed. Has the contract been sent out and signed? And now, have I added the engagements that I now need my coaches to deliver with these or with this contact? Finally, of course, as you've seen, the platform is collaborative. So inviting the coachee onto the platform is one of those crucial steps in your checklist. That being said, you also have contact details directly for the individual, things like their birth date, anniversary date. Again, just from the point of view of keeping in touch with your client, even after the coaching engagement might have been completed, the contact helps you with that. Now, I talked at length about the entire billing and invoicing functionality. I want to now tie that back to the contact. So I've come into Arvind Mohan, who's one of the contacts we're working with. Of course, he has a coaching engagement going on, but the billing information is all here. What are his billing details? If at any point I need to update them, what are the contracts I have with this individual? Arvind here, as you can see, has an active contract ongoing, which means that, okay, I have active engagements. There's work being done between coaches who work for me and Arvind. And here you have all the invoicing details. You can see I raised the first invoice for the discovery session or the chemistry session here for 100 euros. And then in addition to that, you have the next invoice that I've raised, which is still not paid. As you can see, there's a difference of 1,000 euros between the billed amount and the received amount. That's what you will see on the invoicing page, which tells me that the second invoice is still open, whereas the first one has already been paid. Now, while a lot can be done at the level of the contact, fundamentally, the main part of your work is going to be done through your engagements. Now, if you're going to be managing individuals just as you've been, have an engagement with them, when that's completed, mark it done, and then they remain on your account, you'll be able to pull reports later on all the sessions that have been done with them, what kind of themes you were talking about, and all of that. But it ends there. It's only when the complexity of a client returning 3 months later, 6 months later, or renewing their contract for a second engagement, or even the same individual being coached in multiple groups that you're running. You might be running a group for women leaders and also a group for CXOs, and the individual might be part of both. The way you'd manage that currently is the contact remains the same, the client remains the same. You just have multiple engagements for them. Engagement one could be part of group one, engagement two, part of group two. Alternatively, if you have engagements that are coming one after the other, you could have engagement one, which is 2022, and engagement three which you are or engagement two that you're kicking off, which is 2023. Each of these engagements can be assigned to different coaches, or if you are an independent coach, you can manage both of them by yourself, of course. Each engagement would have its own set of goals, sessions, tracking progress, assignments, and surveys and actions. And it then becomes easy for you as a coach to be switching between them. I'm picking Murli Vyas as my example here, and I have a couple of engagements going on with him. One is a coaching engagement that Aman, the coach, is managing. You see that there are 15 sessions to be completed, 12 have already been done. The next session is going to be on the 24th. Whereas Samantha, the coach, is managing Murli on a profiling engagement. Both engagements are for the same individual, but separate in the way that Samantha manages the profiling engagement, Jerry manages the coaching engagement, and there might be synergies between them where they are interacting to a certain extent. By they, I mean the coaches. But for the largest part, the engagements are separate and maintained separately. This again doesn't affect the coachee's experience of the platform too much. I've switched tabs here to the coachee's login. They again, as far as they are concerned, they have come to you as a coach or as a business to improve at what they want to work on with you. That means that there is the ability for them to get a collated view on the sessions they need to complete, on the actions they need to complete. And then, as always, if they need to dive into more details, let's say they want to complete a survey for their coaching engagement, they just click on that. They're back to the familiar interface that all your coaches are comfortable with, and they just click on the complete button to finish the work they have. Again, for the coachee to be switching between engagements is easy. They just go into their engagements listing, switch to the profile engagement, and now they're working with their second coach, Samantha. Similarly, at your end, you are quickly able to say, okay, I, I finished seeing what's going on with Murli Vyas's profiling engagement. Let me quickly view what's going on with his other engagements. Of course, this is an example where I've shown you two engagements. You might have an example where you have three or more, or even engagements that are active only one at a time, but chronologically happening one after the other. So it is necessary still to maintain the separation between what happened the previous engagement. You might have a new contract. You might even have a new set of themes that you're working on. And that would then mean a completely different engagement. So now the engagements have become a logical structuring of your work with your clients. And again, while this might seem like a lot and giving structure for those who need it, if you're going to be running your coaching engagements for just an individual, there is absolutely no need for you to be looking at the contacts or even looking at higher levels of multiple engagements, bringing in multiple coaches. But of course, the functionality is always there. Right. So I'm going to take a breath there. Any thoughts or questions on the details of managing coaching engagements? Any questions, quick questions? Excellent, Trevor. So Trevor asked, what if we switch coaches in the middle of an engagement? So this is true regardless of whether you have multiple engagements or just one. And the switching is straightforward. So here I've assigned it to Aman. For some reason, Aman needs to step away. He's going to be available for a few months. And I need to reassign this engagement to another coach. It's as simple as editing that engagement, saying that this is now going to be assigned to Jerry, the coach, and saving. All the information now moves from Aman to Jerry. And so when Jerry logs in, he has the required history, what's going on, what are the goals that they're working on, what are the notes the coach has made, and then they can just quickly take it from there. Does that answer your question, Trevor? Excellent. Thank you. Any other thoughts from anybody in the audience? Anything that anybody from my team wants to add, things I've missed? Perfect. Looks like I'm doing a good job then. So that's the second feature that I had to show you today, the multiple engagements. There are a lot more nuances that we should perhaps get into at some point, but a couple of FAQs that usually come up. Is every engagement that I'm creating a separate engagement in your count. Yes, that is the case. So even when I'm searching for Murli, who I just showed you as the example, you would see two separate engagements because they are separate. And again, it becomes easy for you to switch between the two. Jerry, the coach, would see the engagement they are assigned to. Samantha, the coach, would see the engagement she is assigned to. Of course, if you do want to give a coach, and this is the second FAQ that comes up, access to at least see what's going on in the other engagements for the same client, the master coach functionality comes in there. So those of you are familiar with it, there is a role called master coach in the platform where coaches can be given access explicitly to other engagements. So Samantha, the master coach, could be given access to Murli Vyas's coaching engagement so that even though she's working on the profiling engagement with Murli, she would still be able to see what's going on or what Jerry, the coach, is doing on the other engagement and factor that into what she's talking about, what she's working on through her sessions. Those are a couple of FAQs that generally come up. And that wraps up our second big feature, the multiple engagements. Now, the final feature that we have planned to show you today is a more fun one because that's something that is intimately tied with the branding and the white labeling aspect of the platform. So all this time you've seen that the platform is Simply.Coach with the Simply.Coach brand, the logo, the colors. On the leap and the surge plans for independent and coaching businesses respectively, we have introduced the ability to white label the platform fully. And here's an example of that. This is one of the coaches who's using the platform. You see that it's still the Simply.Coach platform and there's a copyright there. But for all practical purposes, this is their platform. Coaches, their clients would be logging on at through their domain. Whereas what you have by default is the app.simply.coach domain where coaches, coaches, HR partners, program managers are all logging in. So while the branding on the domain, the branding on the logos was available, we also recently introduced the branding with the colors. And this is, of course, just a nice to have, but it really makes the platform come together and reflect your brand. I have a few examples here. You'll see that even the small favicon is taken care of. So unlike the Simply.Coach icon that shows in the browser, you would see your icon, coaches would see your icon. And for all practical purposes, this is your platform. The place where you would update this information is by clicking on your name on the top right and should specify this is available only for those who are owners of their account and not the coaches or the admin staff that is part of your team. When you go into your settings, you'll see the colors that are available at the bottom and the logo and the fav icon that you can add in. Of course, if you have chosen the surge or the lead plan, the team will reach out and help you with your branding. So instead of app.simply.coach, it would be app.yourdomain.com, coach.yourdomain.com, or any of your subdomains or domains that you own. So this is really to bring out that full-fledged, white-labeled, branded experience for both you and your coaches. Okay, so the team had given me about.
Chirag, go ahead, change the colors and show us, Chirag.
So this is something that I was hoping somebody would ask because you can really go crazy with this. And there are very nice colors that you can really do. And it's entirely configurable. You can use the RGB scale if you need to. And the platform updates in real time for both you and your coaches. So here I've just picked the red and green as an example. So everything else, all the screens would be updated accordingly.
Chirag, the one thing that is worth mentioning is there is a little bit of a color coding within the platform itself in terms of greens and reds itself. So you want to talk about that?
Absolutely. Thank you, Ram. So I picked the green and red to show you that the platform does get updated, but there are important portions of the platform which don't. You have basic statuses that will remain in the green, red, and orange, that green, red, and amber that is standard across the world. So session completion, goal completion, whether the coachee is accessing the platform or not, whether they haven't accepted their account, their invite, if invoices are cancelled, sessions are cancelled, things like that will remain in the green for approvals and red for no goes and so far as the platform is concerned. So if you do have reds and greens in your structure and sorry, in your domain colors, you might want to play around with the shades a little to ensure that it doesn't get confusing. One question we do usually get is why is the help icon still orange? This, because it is visible only to you as the owner and the team that is running the business, will remain orange because the coaches never see this. And this is how you are communicating directly with us. So that remains through the with the Simply Coach brand colors. Okay, so those are the three big features that we had planned to showcase to you. We now have the floor open to all of you to ask questions, regardless of what it is about. It could be about what I've shown you, it could be about anything else, any feedback that you have. And yeah, we take it from there. As always, I do want to acknowledge that a lot of what we've built out is because of feedback we've received from you through our interactions, through your interactions with your coaches. So it's extremely valuable for us to continue to receive that feedback, and we appreciate it. Of course, we might not deliver on it as quickly as you want, but we do deliver as you've seen. So we'll continue to do that, and that's our commitment to you.